how do I kind of find a way to um, try to understand what's going to happen on a larger scale? Because I know what I had to do individually, and not everybody is going to take that same path. So, what is that going to look like for the planet in general? Because it seems like finally governments are kind of, whether it's a false sense of disclosure or not, but they're talking about that there is other beings, other ships in the terms that, you know, in the beginning that everybody can understand. So anyway, what does this contact, what does this interaction look like? If you can speak maybe a little bit about that.
So we're so grateful for this question because it brings to mind, or it brings to the surface, the very reason that we are interacting. Because there are many different types of extra-dimensional beings interacting with many people in this moment in time. Now, for the most part, we would say that the extra-dimensionals interacting with you are not visible or perceivable by your physical senses. So they are interacting with you from another dimension that you can only see and sense with your inner senses, the intuitive senses, the soul senses, if you will. Now, when we tune into the trajectory, the current trajectory of the timeline, let's say, that the beings are on that are interested in this information, we would say that it is likely that your government will create a false interaction of extraterrestrials, and the reason for that is twofold. Number one, because it will create and amplify the energetic of fear, which the energetic of fear is an energetic that draws people away from their own inner knowing, their own intuitive senses, their own inner power, if you will. And so the intention is all about power. Who holds the power? Now, we'll say that the one who holds the power is the one who's connected within themselves to source energy, to their own soul self, higher self, and the team of beings that are, you could say, their spirit team, which do consist of extra-dimensional beings. When a person is connected with their source self, their higher self, they have a different perception of the world. It's generally a perception of oneness, of interconnection. And so they make very different decisions from that space. And this is the reason that we are here. We are here to interact with, spread messages, spread energy, spread wisdom, if you will, that helps those reconnect with their inner self, soul self, source self, to put them back into their seat of power, if you will. Because right now on your planet, we'd say most of the beings that we see have displaced their power, have placed their power externally, whether that be in the hands of a government or an organized religion. And so anytime you place power outside of yourself, you're at the mercy of those institutions, of those organizations. And so the very reason we're here is to communicate a message that helps those reconnect with their own inner power. And so as you ask about the trajectory, well, you are aware that there are many different possibilities. There are also very many different timelines that one can experience as they go about this journey. So the question then becomes, what kind of Earth do you want to live on? What kind of Earth do you want to experience? And then your own inner work becomes your alignment, your realignment with the resonance of that particular reality, that particular energetic trajectory. But we will say that there is a timeline where the government is creating, releasing false information in order to control the narrative, if you will, about, we'll say, extraterrestrials, when the reality is that any extraterrestrial who had the power to harm you, or the desire or the intention to harm you, would have already harmed you without government intervention, if you will. Does that make sense, or does that bring up any more questions?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Guess it's just part of human nature, especially from a government standpoint, to be the ones in control. Because if we don't believe in them any longer, then it's almost like there's no point to them. So I guess hold on to the power the longer the possible.
Exactly, and
But
it is kind of like there's a desperation there as they begin to lose power, as the energetic vibration of the earth begins to shift and the power dynamics begin to shift. What's true is that they are losing power, and it's almost as if there's a desperation to try to regain it. And so, as you have seen in your reality for the last few years, there have been many unfoldments that reflect the desperation and the desire to hold you in that energetic vibration of fear, to keep you from connecting once again to your true inner power, your true inner source of supply, source of security, if you will.
then, if will it only be information-wise that's being spread by the government that's going to that they're trying to, I guess, keep everybody in fear in, or will they actually take it to the next step and actually, I guess, exacerbate it to a level to where, I guess, some of us have known for quite a while, and everybody always called it a conspiracy theory, that they'll even try to go as far as fake alien invasion.
Well, that is a possibility. We would say that that depends on how desperate they become, right? Desperate situations call for desperate measures. But the focus for us is, what is the counteractive process that would counteract that, right? So the counteractive measure that would not necessarily prevent that from happening, but would reveal the truth of that, is if enough individuals are so in alignment and so connected to their own source self and their own inner self and their own intuition and their own heart space, that they are easily able to discern truth from falsehood. In other words, no matter what the external circumstance presents, each individual is able for themselves to be able to tune in and discern whether or not that is the actual true unfoldment, true narrative, or whether that is a false unfoldment. And we wish to say there are already false unfoldments in your media. So there is a trajectory there. But if enough people are connected with themselves and connected with their own intuition, then the media can broadcast whatever they want to broadcast. But the truth will be felt in the heart space and in one's energy field.
You know, because I don't want to claim to fully understand, I guess, when it comes to some of my, I guess, choices, and then how the energy is affects the, the world that I perceive. But I always felt like that if I have to argue with somebody, then I'm kind of getting stuck in that loop. And so my desire is not to, let's say, if the government says the aliens are evil, we need protection, for me to just come out and say, no, stop, don't believe what they're saying. That's kind of like interacting with that image, and I feel like they'll kind of defeat the purpose. Can you maybe just give me any more information about, like, my idea was to just keep doing what I'm doing and expressing from my experiences, regardless of what they said. I might bring it up. They said, okay, well, they said aliens are evil. Well, let me tell you how, my experience shows otherwise, and so maybe continue that way, if that's going to be anything to be effective. Or do I need to be a bit more, I guess, confrontational about it?
We would advise against confrontation, because what the energy of confrontation is that in general you are expressing, if you will, the same energy that they are. So, for example, if you present an argument that, and you're focused on the perception that they are wrong and you are right, that just the expression of that energetic is not really in alignment with your highest self. Whereas, if you just keep doing what you're doing and keep expressing your truth and your feeling of resonance and what you feel is accurate and true within your heart, if you stay focused on that directive, it's not the same thing as arguing, because there's no energetic charge of anger there, right? There's no energetic charge of judgment. There's just an expression of the truth, of your truth. And that is why we said in the beginning, in terms of the opening lecture, if you will, that your directive is really to stay focused on your truth and the energetic that is the vibration of truth, and keep focusing on expressing that. Now, that likely will conflict with information coming up from other sources, but it's not that you have to argue with those sources. It's just that you have to keep expressing your truth. We wish for you to keep in mind that the energy of truth is much more powerful than the energy or message of falsehood. And so for you in particular, and all those who are resonant and interested in truth, if all of those beings just keep expressing truth, then that will have power over the falsehood without the need for really an argument, in your words. Is that making more sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you for that.